Welcome back here to the DLC Media Lab, which is not anywhere nearly as fancy as the Matthews Mentality one in Memphis, but we're on the road today at ICSC Las Vegas, the Super Bowl of retail real estate, in all things retail real estate. It's my pleasure to be joined by my dear friend and sometimes collaborator in business, Kyle Matthews. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a Super Bowl, it's the World Series, it's the NBA Finals all wrapped up in one.
We're particularly excited in my house with the NBA Finals. 38 years of Knicks season ticket holder. I've been waiting a long
Well, hold on. Don't they still have to beat the Pacers?
They do still have to beat the Pacers. And there was a little matter of us being banged up last year and losing into Game 7. And then if we beat the Pacers, I don't think either team left in the West is going to be a pushover. Let's put it that way. But seriously, let's get to a little bit of business.
Sure.
You have been unabashedly optimistic. You, like us, in slightly different roles, fought the tape, I would say, in 23 and early 24. Tell us a little bit about on the margin, because you have so much data about what's going on the margin. How is volume holding up in a post-Liberation Day world? What are investors saying? Are deals still getting closed at the original number they're going under agreement for? Give the world a little bit of up-to-the-minute real-time data about the transaction market.
Well, it's a great question. I mean, this is ultimately, it's kind of like the foundation of my role. I have to understand these things and ideally make good decisions based on good data. So transactions, it hasn't been far enough out from Liberation Day to see any negative impact. I don't think it's going to be a positive impact. Namely, just the way transactions work in real estate, as you know better than I do. It takes long, 90, 120, 150 days. So most of the deals, most of the pipeline was put in place before the real tariffs and really the tumult of it sank in early April. The rates were fixed. The terms were negotiated. So the transaction market on average is really now, 9-10 quarters been pretty suppressed. Like, it's not as bad as the GFC. I did a panel yesterday where we talked about back in the day, but I mean, it really has been 13, 14 years since there's been a trough in capital markets activity in our industry. So you have professionals who are a decade into their career who've had success. This is the first real adversity they've ever faced, which is interesting because that really started to happen at the tail end of 22, early 23, where velocity crashed. But from an operating fundamentals, from the performance of the assets themselves, it's been great. So, and normally those two correlate. Like, if operations decline, values decline, transactions decline, and conversely, if operations improve, values improve, transactions improve. But this one's been a little decoupling of those two things. So the answer to your question, we haven't seen anything yet. We're keeping an eye on it. The first place it will show up in a brokerage kind of pipeline is days on the market of listed product. We haven't seen any increase yet. Every week, me and the executive teams we assume it's coming, but every week we're like, wow, that was another good week. And so right now we're up 47% year over year last year.
Year over year.
Yeah, year over year.
47%.
In sales and debt velocity, and in volume, excuse me. And then last year we were up 41. So we've been doing very well. I know our peer group, that hasn't necessarily been the case. It's the market, like MSCI, Green Street, if you read any of those reports, it shows velocity up around 10%. So, we're beating the market, which is great. The market's anemically growing, but yeah, we have all eyes on what's going on in the world and what effect. Because in real estate, this is true about the retailer side, it's true about the landlord side, it's certainly true about the brokerage side, is uncertainty creates hesitation. Hesitation is like, I'm just not going to do anything. And as a service provider whose business is built on deals happening, that is never a good thing for us. So we're keeping our eyes on it, and I'll let you know if that changes. But right now, good so far.
So that's encouraging, right? And certainly the 47% number is phenomenal. I do think you make a great point. I think this is one of the reasons why you and your team are taking share, which is you're thinking about the entire ecosystem of the industry, not just can I get a deal closed or deals plural closed, right? And it is the first time in a very long time where fundamentals are ripping, as good as I've seen it in my extensive, lengthy career. But it's the first time where you have that and you don't have the enthusiasm. As an operator, as an operator who transacts all the time in the market, we develop our conviction off of the fundamentals, right? And how the leasing team is in the room. They're in every pipeline meeting, they're in every investment committee meeting, and their conviction is definitely a big driver. So I want to ask you about a little bit something. You have been an incredibly multifaceted entrepreneur about growing a brokerage business, right? But historically, I think you were best known for bringing in young talent, cultivating it, teaching it the Matthews way, right? And letting them grow into it in the business. In the last 2-3 years, you have had the opportunity, and you've seized upon the opportunity really since the end of the pandemic, to bring in some people that might be traditionally termed as laterals.
Yeah, I was going to say lateral hires, yeah.
These are more
seasoned producers,
established whole teams in a couple of cases. Tell us a little bit about how that's worked culturally for you guys at Matthews and what kind of impact that's having on that 47% growth number.
Yeah, no, it's a great question because it's such a big component of the decision. Do we bring people on? There's, we look at what do they do, make sure there's no redundancy, what's the production? There's an economics to it, but it's like, are they going to fit with the culture? And historically, we just weren't a senior recruiting firm, going back to when I founded 2015, because I say this is, pretty humbly, is like, you just don't have much to offer when you're a new brokerage. Like, why would someone come over? And obviously I'm very biased, but what's our value proposition, And so we just didn't do it. We didn't really spend time talking to people in the industry. We just said, look, we're just going to build through the draft. It's kind of like the Green Bay Packer way. It's like, we're going to draft in young men and women. We're going to, kind of a blank canvas. Right now, there's challenges to bringing new talent in the business, and every company understands those. And every generation has its own pluses. They do have pluses, but minuses. But we're going to teach them our way, the Matthews way, right? And it's worked very well. But what happened is, year after year after year of building that talent pipeline, those agents, they grow into the business and they really become very, very highly successful producers. We take market share. Matthews is, our platform, but really our name and our brand and the awareness grows to where all of a sudden what we found coming out of COVID was, to your point, established producers, established teams in markets or product types we don't serve, or both, that we didn't have market share yet. All of a sudden they'd be reaching out, because again, we're not a big soliciting firm. They reach out and say, hey, because of COVID, and even more so since fall of 22, when the especially on the institutional side, when the
interest rate pricing started to move, right?
When the interest rates sunk their teeth into deal velocity, the larger public brokerage companies, where they really cut was support on capital markets and sales, because that's where they felt it. Their debt servicing business.
Well, that was a lot of the motivation of some of these people to be at those types of firms, right?
Exactly, yeah. And so all of a sudden they felt their analyst was taken away, their marketing support, like things were changed. And anytime there's a retrade, it can lead to resentment. And there's a little bit of resentment, a little bit of frustration. Then they see this other company, Matthews, that has some buzz, has some energy. And it's never like, hey, I'm going to call someone, hey, I want to come over. It's like, hey, I don't know if I'm looking to make a move, but I'd be interested in having a conversation. And that
you're dating. There's no one.
That's what I sometimes I always say, like, hey, we're not getting married today, all right? So like we could just have a conversation. So that has been a new dynamic to, I want to make sure I answer your question. The amount of senior producers, lateral hires that have come into Matthews just in the last 24 months is like 100x the first 10 years,
right?
And just making sure culture is a fit. But the answer to your question is, what we found is what to what degree, maybe a tiny degree or a lot, attracts that agent or that team to say, hey, maybe I should have a conversation with Matthews, actually is kind of a commonality in their underlying culture. Hey, I'm in growth mode. I want great technology and infrastructure support. I want to work hard because I want to be great. I want to dominate. I want to be a legend. Like Matthews is up and to the right. I want to be up and to the right. And anytime you have a fast growth broker at a slow or no growth company, there's a misalignment, and that could create friction. And so we really haven't had really much of any culture challenges, which typically do happen when you bring people from the outside. So I've been very blessed, fingers crossed, knock on wood. But yeah, we're always looking to add good teammates, and we're excited about what's happened over the last 24 months, and we're in a lot of conversations with people now. So stay tuned.
So last question, right? So it's 10 years this year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 10 years a couple weeks ago.
And that period of time, right? You've relocated. You and your lovely wife have had this big family.
Yep.
What do you think the one thing is that you've learned in being an entrepreneur with your own business in the last 10 years that you think is going to carry you forward in the rest of your career?
Oh, man. I mean, being an entrepreneur and then ultimately a founder, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Like, there's all this attraction to doing it. Like, you're like, oh, I get to be a founder and I'm going to start a company and I'm going to get this title. And it doesn't always work this way, but I've been very blessed. Like, oh, I have this wealth and this money, and that's always great. But it is, you're signing up for a lot more, and you're signing your wife up for a lot more. For me, my wife, it could be your husband. You're signing your kids up for it. And so I was lucky enough to have a little foresight and have those conversations with my spouse and not my kids, but, just like, hey, I think there's an opportunity. I think this is what it looks like. But even then we underestimated the amount of responsibility. That's really the word I'll use. The amount of responsibility. We have 1,000 people. We have 25 offices, and it's not that any one person relies on me to provide their life, but in a way they do. They rely, there's checks.
But some of that is you putting your own pressure on yourself.
Yes.
That's the way I always thought about it, right? The burden never goes away.
Never.
Right?
And so what I've learned is you have to lead from the front. So if you want your company to be hardworking, you have to be the hardest worker. If you want your company to be tech focused, you have to be the most tech focused. If you want, we don't call each other coworkers, your teammates. If you want to have your teammates treat each other with dignity and respect and actually care about each other, you got to, if you don't already, you got to learn how to do those things and genuinely care about each other. To the best business allows you to do that. And I don't know if when you're founding a company, especially when it scales to the degree we have, like you're as aware of the responsibility of all those things. And I wouldn't change anything. I've been so blessed. Like I pinched myself just to be here with you. Like they want to talk to me. Why do they want to talk to me?
Well, I don't know. I'm like the weak warm-up dish. I hear you're going to see Pete Carroll next for your own. That's pretty cool.
He owes me. I put 4 years of that sweat and tears. No, but it just, what I would say, what I've learned over the last 10 and really what I have to tell myself and remind myself to your question for the next 10 is it's a tremendous responsibility. It's a blessing, but it's a tremendous responsibility that comes sitting in this chair. And the only way Matthews will, for the next decade, will have the same success as we had in the first decade is if I bring it the same way. And it's not just about me. Am I prepared to do that? Which I am. It's like, is my family, is my friends, is my physical health. Like it's all of it. And so, it's been an amazing journey where it's halftime, right? As far as I see it. But I want to make sure
I hate to tell you this, at 34 years in, you may just be at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
So don't take the pads off just yet, buddy.
I won't. But it's been great, and I have incredible teammates. I mean, that's the other thing is just surround yourself with people who are smarter and better at what they do than you do, because you can't do everything anyway. So from a technology side, have great technologists. From financial analysis, have people who underwrite better than you. Even in management, I have people who are much better at managing people than I am. I know a little bit about a lot now, and to just surround yourself with great people and just empower them to do what they do. And some stay and grow within the organization, some leave and go somewhere else, and like that's life,
Look, first of all, thank you for taking the time.
No, thank you.
We'll have to do it a longer form in the future. I have this term that I use with entrepreneurs I really respect, and you are one of them. You are a true defender of the faith, of the culture, and the passion that you have built embedded in the culture at Matthews. So congratulations on 10 years. It's always a pleasure to see you and do business with you. I think what you say about preparing your family and your spouse is something I've believed for a long, long time. And only the best and more success.
Well, same to you. And it's really due to people like you. Like we're service providers, and we don't have people who hire us to provide the service. I'm not sitting here. And
everybody's got another. I tell my wife all the time. She goes, "When are you gonna make Everybody's got another master. It's just not always fair who it is, right?"
Well, I appreciate working for you, and I look forward to continuing to work for you for as many opportunities as you will.
There will be much more work together in the future.
Thanks again, my brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.